The Source engine, developed by Valve in 2004, serves as the successor to GoldSource. It's renowned for its advancements in physics, AI, and graphics, which made games realistic for their time while remaining scalable on older, less powerful hardware. Notably, Half-Life 2 garnered awards for its graphics, made possible by the Source engine. Although Valve introduced the Source 2 engine in 2015, the original Source engine continues to be used by modders and some third-party companies due to the lack of comprehensive Source 2 documentation. It remains actively maintained with engine and security updates. The Source engine has an interesting lineage. It distantly originates from GoldSource, which itself was a heavily modified version of John Carmack's Quake engine, incorporating some code from the Quake 2 engine. In 2004, Carmack commented on his blog that there are still bits of early Quake code in Half-Life 2. Eric Johnson, a Valve employee, further explained the engine's nomenclature on the Valve developer community. The Source engine was developed incrementally, replacing GoldSource in Valve's internal projects. This gradual approach explains its unusually modular nature. Valve's development of Source has been a combination of licensed middleware and in-house developed code. While older versions of Source used Bink Video for video playback, more recent releases utilize WebM videos for menu backgrounds, full-motion videos, and splash screens. The Source engine was designed for incremental evolution, avoiding the disruptive version jumps seen in some competing engines. Within Source, different systems are represented by separate modules, allowing independent updates. Valve leverages Steam to distribute these updates automatically to its extensive user base. However, occasional compatibility breaks have occurred. For instance, the release of Half-Life 2, Episode 1 in the Orange Box introduced new engine versions incompatible with older games or mods, necessitating code and content upgrades by developers. Remarkably, updating Source required less effort than comparable engines. The Source 2006 engine branch, also known as the Episode 1 engine branch, was initially used in 2005 with Half-Life 2, Lost Coast and Day of Defeat, Source as a tech demo for high dynamic range rendering and other graphical improvements. It was later fully released in 2006 with Half-Life 2, Episode 1 and Half-Life Deathmatch, Source. Previous multiplayer games, such as Counter-Strike, Source, Day of Defeat, Source, and Half-Life 2, Deathmatch, were also upgraded to the Source 2006 Engine 12. Some notable features introduced in this branch include: high dynamic range rendering, simulates brightness values beyond computer monitor's actual range and allows aperture adjustment. Color correction, alters color balance for desired effects. Phong materials, enhances diffuse reflections on roughened surfaces. Facial animation upgrades, provides more detail and intensity for close-up performances. Dynamic interactions, enables interactions between NPCs using special animations. Light warp textures, tint materials per pixel based on brightness. DirectX 9 Shader Model 3, Level 95 unlocks improved shader performance. Detail prop shapes, improved detail sprites that sway in the breeze and bend away from nearby players. The Source 2006 branch was eventually obsoleted by the Source 2007 Orange Box branch, but its legacy lives on in various games still running on it, including The Ship, Murder Party, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, and Insurgency, Modern Infantry Combat 1. The Source 2007 branch marked a comprehensive upgrade of the Source engine for the release of the Orange Box. It introduced an artist-driven, threaded particle system that replaced previously hard-coded effects for all included games. An in-process tools framework was developed to support this system, which also facilitated the early builds of Source Filmmaker. Additionally, the facial animation system was enhanced to be hardware accelerated on modern video cards, achieving feature film and broadcast television quality. The release of the Orange Box on multiple platforms led to a significant code refactoring, enabling the Source engine to leverage multiple CPU cores. However, multiprocessor support on the PC remained experimental and unstable until the release of Left 4 Dead. This support was later backported to Team Fortress 2 and Day of Defeat. Source: Valve handled the Xbox 360 release of the Orange Box in-house, integrating full support for the console into the main engine code line, which included asset converters, cross-platform play, and Xbox Live integration. Program code could be ported from PC to Xbox 360 simply by recompiling it. Conversely, the PlayStation 3 release was outsourced to Electronic Arts and encountered numerous issues, which Gabe Newell highlighted when criticizing the console during the Orange Box release. The Left 4 Dead branch represents a significant overhaul of many aspects of the Source engine, developed specifically for the Left 4 Dead series. Multiprocessor support was significantly enhanced, enabling features such as split-screen multiplayer, additional post-processing effects, event scripting with Squirrel, and the highly dynamic AI director. The menu interface was redesigned with a new layout tailored for consoles. This branch also powered the releases of Alien Swarm and Portal 2. Alien Swarm was released with source code that detailed many of the changes made since the branch's inception. Portal 2 marked Valve's effort to handle the challenge of porting to PlayStation 3 internally, combined with Steamworks integration, resulting in what they described as the best console version of the game. The Source SDK is the software development kit for the Source engine, and it includes many of the tools used by Valve to create assets for their games. It includes various command line applications for performing certain operations inside the asset pipeline, as well as a few GUI-based apps for handling more sophisticated tasks. Source SDK was released as a free standalone toolkit through Steam, with the need that a Source game be purchased on the same account. Since the release of Left 4 Dead in late 2008, Valve has been publishing authoring tools for different games, which are the same programs modified for each game's engine development. After Team Fortress 2 became free to play, the Source SDK was effectively made available to all Steam users. When some Source games were updated to Source 2013, the older Source SDKs were phased out. The three applications mentioned below are now included in the install of each game. The Source SDK includes three applications: Hammer Editor, Model Viewer, and Face Poser. The Model Viewer is an application that lets users view models and can be used for a range of tasks, including development. The program allows developers to view models and their associated animations, attachment points, bones, and so on. Face Poser is the tool for accessing facial animations and choreography systems. This application allows you to alter facial expressions, gestures, and movements for characters, lip-sync speech, sequence expressions, and other acting cues, as well as see what the scene will appear like in the game engine. The Hammer Editor, the official level editor for the engine, uses rendering and compiling tools included in the SDK to create maps via the binary space partitioning method. Level geometry is constructed with 3D polygons known as brushes, each of which can be assigned a texture that defines surface properties, including footstep sounds. These brush faces can also be converted into displacements, allowing for the creation of more natural shapes like hills. Scenery objects or intricate geometry can be imported as separate 3D models from the game directory. These models can function as physics objects or interactive props. The editor also includes a comprehensive logic I/O system for creating complex interactive elements. Signals can be sent between entities such as buttons, NPCs, intangible trigger brushes, and map props to trigger various responses or change an entity's state. The Source Dedicated Server (SRCDS) is a standalone launcher for the Source engine that hosts multiplayer game sessions without needing a client. It is available for both Windows and Linux platforms and supports custom levels and assets. Many third-party servers also use Metamod, Source and SourceMod, which provide a framework for custom gameplay modifications on existing titles. Source Filmmaker (SFM) is a 3D animation tool developed by Valve within the Source engine. Initially used to create movies for Day of Defeat, Source and Team Fortress 2, it was also utilized for creating trailers for Source engine games. SFM was released to the public in 2012. In June 2016, Valve introduced the Destinations Workshop Tools, a set of free virtual reality (VR) creation tools built using the Source 2 SDK. In June 2005, Valve launched the Valve Developer Community Wiki, replacing the static Source SDK documentation with a dynamic, MediaWiki-powered community site. Valve staff have occasionally published professional and academic papers for various events and publications, including SIGGRAPH, Game Developer Magazine, and the Game Developers Conference, detailing different aspects of Source Engine development. The first game developed using the Source Engine was Counter-Strike: Source, a tactical first-person shooter created by Valve and Turtle Rock Studios. Released in October 2004 for Windows, this game is a remake of the 2000 classic Counter-Strike, now powered by the Source Engine. Similar to the original, Counter-Strike, Source features two opposing teams, counter-terrorists and terrorists, competing in a series of rounds. Victory in each round is achieved by either completing specific objectives, such as detonating a bomb or rescuing hostages, or by eliminating the opposing team. Initially, Counter-Strike: Source was bundled with all retail and digital copies of Half-Life 2 before being released as a standalone game. Counter-Strike: Source was initially released as a beta to members of the Valve Cyber Cafe program on August 11, 2004. A week later, on August 18, 2004, the beta became available to owners of Counter-Strike, Condition Zero and those who had received a Half-Life 2 is a first-person shooter (FPS) game developed and published by Valve Corporation in 2004. It was released for Windows via Valve's digital distribution platform, Steam. Building on the original Half-Life, 1998, Half-Life 2 blends shooting, puzzles, and storytelling, while introducing new elements like vehicles and physics-based gameplay. Players assume the role of Gordon Freeman, who joins a resistance movement to free Earth from the Combine, an interplanetary alien empire. Half-Life 2 voucher with select ATI Radeon video cards. The full game was included in the Half-Life 2 bundles, released on November 16, 2004. On October 11, 2006, Valve introduced an experimental update called Dynamic Weapons Pricing, where item prices fluctuated based on their demand from the previous week. On March 5, 2010, Valve announced that games from its first-party library, including those from the Counter-Strike series, would be coming to Mac OS X, with releases planned for April 2010. Valve enlisted Hidden Path Entertainment to help update Counter-Strike: Source. On May 7, 2010, an update was released featuring new achievements, a domination and revenge system similar to Team Fortress 2, player stats, an upgraded Source Engine, and more. The public beta, along with the OS X version, was released on June 23, 2010. A Linux port of Counter-Strike: Source was subsequently released on February 5, 2013. Development of Half-Life 2 began in June 1999, 6 months after the original Half-Life was released. The development team comprised 82 people, with the number rising to 100 when including voice actors. Gabe Newell, Valve's president, aimed to redefine the FPS genre, stating, "Why spend 4 years of your life building something that isn't innovative and is basically pointless? If Half-Life 2 isn't viewed as the best PC game of all time, it's going to completely bum up most of the guys on this team." Newell imposed no deadline and provided a virtually unlimited budget, pledging to fund the project himself if needed. The game was developed using Valve's new in-house engine, Source, which was created simultaneously. While Half-Life was set in the Black Mesa research facility, Valve wanted a more epic and global feel for the sequel. Initially, one concept had players teleporting between planets, but this was scrapped to maintain continuity between levels. Influenced by art director Viktor Antonov, who was Bulgarian, the team chose an Eastern European city as the setting. Early concepts included the player starting on an icebreaker ship, the Borealis, bound for the city. Nova Prospekt evolved from a small rail depot built on an old prison to a major destination. After noticing how players connected with minor characters in Half-Life, Valve focused on deeper characterization, creating more detailed models and realistic animations. Animator Ken Birdwell studied psychologist Paul Ekman's research on facial muscles and emotion. Writer Mark Laidlaw introduced family relationships between. The Hammer Editor, the official level editor for the engine, uses rendering and compiling tools included in the SDK to create maps via the binary space partitioning method. Level geometry is constructed with 3D polygons known as brushes, each of which can be assigned a texture that defines surface properties, including footstep sounds. These brush faces can also be converted into displacements, allowing for the creation of more natural shapes like hills. Scenery objects or intricate geometry can be imported as separate 3D models from the game directory. These models can function as physics objects or interactive props. The editor also includes a comprehensive logic I/O system for creating complex interactive elements. Signals can be sent between entities such as buttons, NPCs, intangible trigger brushes, and map props to trigger various responses or change an entity's state. The Source Dedicated Server, SRCDS, is a standalone launcher for the Source engine that hosts multiplayer game sessions without needing a client. It is available for both Windows and Linux platforms and supports custom levels and assets. Many third-party servers also use MetaMod, Source and SourceMod, which provide a framework for custom gameplay modifications on existing titles. Source Filmmaker, SFM, is a 3D animation tool developed by Valve within the Source engine. Initially used to create movies for Day of Defeat, Source and Team Fortress 2, it was also utilized for creating trailers for Source engine games. SFM was released to the public in 2012. In June 2016, Valve introduced the Destinations Workshop Tools, a set of free virtual reality (VR) creation tools built using the Source 2 SDK. In June 2005, Valve launched the Valve Developer Community Wiki, replacing the static Source SDK documentation with a dynamic, MediaWiki-powered community site. Valve staff have occasionally published professional and academic papers for various events and publications, including SIGGRAPH, Game Developer Magazine, and the Game Developers Conference, detailing different aspects of Source engine development. The first game developed using the Source engine was Counter-Strike: Source, a tactical first-person shooter created by Valve and Turtle Rock Studios. Released in October 2004 for Windows, this game is a remake of the 2000 classic Counter-Strike, now powered by the Source engine. Similar to the original, Counter-Strike, Source features two opposing teams, counter-terrorists and terrorists, competing in a series of rounds. Victory in each round is achieved by either completing specific objectives, such as detonating a bomb or rescuing hostages, or by eliminating the opposing team. Initially, Counter-Strike: Source was bundled with all retail and digital copies of Half-Life 2 before being released as a standalone game. Counter-Strike: Source was initially released as a beta to members of the Valve Cyber Café program on August 11, 2004. A week later, on August 18, 2004, the beta became available to owners of Counter-Strike, Condition Zero and those who had received a Half-Life 2 is a first-person shooter, FPS, game developed and published by Valve Corporation in 2004. It was released for Windows via Valve's digital distribution platform, Steam. Building on the original Half-Life, 1998, Half-Life 2 blends shooting, puzzles, and storytelling, while introducing new elements like vehicles and physics-based gameplay. Players assume the role of Gordon Freeman, who joins a resistance movement to free Earth from the Combine, an interplanetary alien empire. Half-Life 2 voucher with select ATI Radeon video cards. The full game was included in the Half-Life 2 bundles, released on November 16, 2004. On October 11, 2006, Valve introduced an experimental update called Dynamic Weapons Pricing, where item prices fluctuated based on their demand from the previous week. On March 5, 2010, Valve announced that games from its first-party library, including those from the Counter-Strike series, would be coming to Mac OS X, with releases planned for April 2010. Valve enlisted Hidden Path Entertainment to help update Counter-Strike. Source. On May 7, 2010, an update was released featuring new achievements, a domination and revenge system similar to Team Fortress 2, player stats, an upgraded source engine, and more. The public beta, along with the OS X version, was released on June 23, 2010. A Linux port of Counter-Strike, Source, was subsequently released on February 5, 2013. Development of Half-Life 2 began in June 1999, 6 months after the original Half-Life was released. The development team comprised 82 people, with the number rising to 100 when including voice actors. Gabe Newell, Valve's president, aimed to redefine the FPS genre, stating, "Why spend 4 years of your life building something that isn't innovative and is basically pointless? If Half-Life 2 isn't viewed as the best PC game of all time, it's going to completely bum out most of the guys on this team." Newell imposed no deadline and provided a virtually unlimited budget, pledging to fund the project himself if needed. The game was developed using Valve's new in-house engine, Source, which was created simultaneously. While Half-Life was set in the Black Mesa research facility, Valve wanted a more epic and global feel for the sequel. Initially, one concept had players teleporting between planets, but this was scrapped to maintain continuity between levels. Influenced by art director Viktor Antonov, who was Bulgarian, the team chose an Eastern European city as the setting. Early concepts included the player starting on an icebreaker ship, the Borealis, bound for the city. Nova Prospekt evolved from a small rail depot built on an old prison to a major destination. After noticing how players connected with minor characters in Half-Life, Valve focused on deeper characterization, creating more detailed models and realistic animations. Animator Ken Birdwell studied psychologist Paul Ekman's research on facial muscles and emotion. Writer Mark Laidlaw introduced family relationships between characters, believing it to be a universally understood dramatic element rarely used in games. Valve integrated the Havok physics engine to enhance realism and gameplay. To experiment, the team created a mini-game called Zombie Basketball, where players used a physics gun to throw zombies through hoops. In mid-2001, they tested the engine by building a street war scenario featuring rioting citizens, police, tanks, Molotov cocktails, hand-to-hand combat, and looting. In late 2001, Valve began creating a showreel for E3 2002. Newell stepped back for several months to provide unbiased feedback and focused on developing Steam, Valve's digital distribution service. The initial showreel showcased physics, environments like the Borealis, and a dialogue-heavy scene with Dr. Kleiner. Newell felt it did not adequately demonstrate the physics' impact on gameplay and that the Kleiner scene was too long. Reflecting on this, Laidlaw said, "The dramatic scenes with the characters are important, but they have to be in service of the interactivity and gameplay." By September 2002, the team completed a second showreel featuring a buggy race along City 17's coast, a headcrab encounter on a pier, an alien strider attacking the city, and a shorter Kleiner sequence. In October, Newell informed the team they would announce Half-Life 2 at E3 2003 and release it by the end of the year. Following a similar process to the original Half-Life, the team split into cabals to work on different levels, with designers creating levels using placeholder shapes and surfaces for the artists to refine. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines is a 2004 action role-playing game developed by Troika Games and published by Activision for Microsoft Windows. Set in White Wolf Publishing's World of Darkness, the game is based on the role-playing game Vampire: The Masquerade. The story follows a human who is killed and resurrected as a fledgling vampire, embarking on a journey through early 21st century Los Angeles to uncover the truth behind a newly discovered relic that foretells the end of all vampires. The development of Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines began at Troika Games in November 2001. The developers aimed to revitalize the role-playing genre by setting it in a first-person perspective. Troika pitched the idea to Activision, which suggested using the Vampire, the Masquerade license, previously utilized in Nihilistic Software's Vampire, the Masquerade, Redemption, a game that had seen enough success to justify a follow-up. Instead of creating a direct sequel to Redemption, the team delved into the lore and rules of the White Wolf property. Troika was a small studio with just 5 developers and a total staff of 32, including lead writer Brian Mitsoda, who joined the team less than a year into development. Although some initial designs and levels were completed, much of the early work was either abandoned or redeveloped. Troika desired to create a 3D game but faced uncertainty over whether to build a new game engine or license an existing one, and whether to use a first or third-person perspective. At the time, Valve's Source engine was under development. Valve employee Scott Lynch approached Troika about using Source, making Troika the first external team to utilize it. The decision to use Source was influenced by its advanced facial animation and lip-syncing system, essential for the game's character interactions. Due to the simultaneous development of Bloodlines and Valve's Half-Life 2, Troika had to work with unfinished code and tools, necessitating custom code to compensate for the incomplete engine and relying on a single source of technical support. Troika developed a lighting system to create the game's distinctive, moody nighttime setting, a particle system for the special effects of vampire disciplines, and a cloth system for realistic clothing movement. However, Source's lack of advanced artificial intelligence coding at the time caused significant challenges, as Troika's code did not integrate well with the engine. Activision introduced Vampire, the Masquerade, Bloodlines in May 2003. However, in October of that year, Valve experienced a security breach in which hackers stole the source code for Half-Life 2. This incident necessitated new security measures for the engine, delaying both games and pushing the release of Bloodlines to early 2005. Until May 2004, Troika and Activision had planned for the game to include a multiplayer component, with modes featuring teams of vampires versus vampire hunters and character upgrades between rounds. However, Activision left the team without a producer for over a year until David Mullich was assigned to the project. Mullich discovered the game's design was incomplete, with game levels created and then abandoned, along with numerous technical issues, including problems with the multiplayer code. Due to the early stage of Source's multiplayer code development and the increased time required to implement it, the multiplayer component was ultimately abandoned. Half-Life 2: Deathmatch is a multiplayer first-person shooter developed by Valve. It debuted on Steam on November 30, 2004, utilizing assets from Half-Life 2 and its Source engine. The game features new multiplayer-focused levels, optimized for arena-style gameplay, and introduces a handful of additional weapons. Portions of its source code served as the foundation for many early Source-based multiplayer mods. Unlike the original Half-Life's multiplayer, Deathmatch does not contribute to the main storyline of the Half-Life series. Following the release and critical reception of Half-Life 2, which initially lacked a multiplayer component, Valve responded by unveiling Half-Life 2: Deathmatch 2 weeks later on Steam. It was launched concurrently with the Source SDK to encourage community-driven modifications. Post-release, Valve supported Deathmatch with new maps and updates for both the game and its engine. In September 2010, the game was upgraded to utilize the Orange Box version of the Source engine. Despite not being included in Valve's The Orange Box compilation, Deathmatch was later included in a promotional offer for NVIDIA graphics card users in January 2008, alongside other titles. In September 2010, Half-Life 2: Deathmatch became available on Steam for OS X, followed by a Linux version released in March 2013. Valve canceled a Mac version of Half-Life developed by Logicware in 2000. Gabe Newell cited the port's substandard quality, expressing concerns about Mac players receiving an inferior experience. In contrast, Rebecca Heinemann, Logicware's co-founder, disputed this claim, stating Valve canceled the port due to disputes with Apple over sales projections. According to her, the port was fully completed and just 3 weeks away from release. Valve eventually released ports for OS X and Linux in 2013. Separately, Captivation Digital Laboratories and Gearbox Software collaborated on a port of Half-Life for the Dreamcast. This version featured new character models, textures, and an exclusive expansion called Blue Shift. However, Sierra canceled the Dreamcast port shortly before its scheduled release in June 2001, citing shifting market conditions following Sega's decision to discontinue the console. Blue Shift was subsequently ported to Windows. The Dreamcast version of Half-Life served as the foundation for the PlayStation 2 port released later in 2001, which introduced competitive play and an additional co-op expansion called Half-Life: Decay. In 2004, Valve released Half-Life: Source, a version of Half-Life remade in their new Source game engine. While it retained the original graphical elements, it introduced new physics, water effects, and 5.1 surround sound. Furthermore, Black Mesa, a fan-made remake of Half-Life using the Source engine, was initially released as a free mod by Crowbar Collective in September 2012. Following Valve's approval, it was later published commercially. Day of Defeat: Source is a team-based online first-person shooter developed by Valve, set in World War II. Released on September 26, 2005, for Microsoft Windows via Steam and distributed by Electronic Arts, it represents a remake of the original Day of Defeat, transitioning from the Gold Source to the Source engine. The game features updated game models and was initially announced in February 2005 during the development of Half-Life 2, showcasing new design elements on the Source engine like high dynamic range rendering and cinematic effects. During development, Day of Defeat: Source evolved from a straightforward conversion of its predecessor to incorporate design alterations and new features. It revolves around two factions, the U.S. Army and the Wehrmacht, each offering 6 player classes engaged in World War II scenarios across various European theater battles in 1944. Upon its release, Day of Defeat: Source received positive reviews for its atmospheric gameplay, strategic depth, graphics, audio work, and overall presentation. However, criticism initially centered on its content depth, which was addressed through subsequent updates adding new game modes, maps, and graphical enhancements. Valve continued to support the game post-release with regular updates, including significant additions like the introduction of the detonation game mode and various gameplay tweaks. Community involvement was also fostered through the release of map packs, such as the community-assembled map pack, Camp 1 and Camp 2, which were developed in collaboration with Valve. Notably, Day of Defeat: Source served as a platform for Valve to showcase several technological advancements in the Source engine, including dynamic audio systems and high dynamic range rendering. Updates post-2008 further enhanced the game's visuals and gameplay mechanics, solidifying its position within the FPS genre. Half-Life 2: Lost Coast is an additional level for Valve's 2004 first-person shooter game Half-Life 2, released on October 27, 2005, exclusively through Steam as a free download for Windows users who owned Half-Life 2. In Lost Coast, players control Gordon Freeman as he navigates a coastal cliff to disable a combined weapon hidden in a monastery. Originally conceived as part of the Highway 17 chapter in Half-Life 2, Lost Coast was discarded during development but retained minor storyline details and unique elements like headcrab artillery launchers. The level was designed to showcase Valve's implementation of high dynamic range (HDR) rendering in the Source engine. HDR lighting effects were prominently featured throughout, with environments chosen specifically to highlight the capabilities of this new technology. For instance, the monastery's Eastern Orthodox architecture was selected for its rich colors and varied materials, ideal for demonstrating extreme light and dark contrasts. Valve introduced Lost Coast as their first game with a commentary mode, where developers offer insights into the design as players progress through the level. This feature aimed to deepen players' understanding of game development choices and showcase Valve's technical innovations. The development of HDR rendering for Source engine faced several challenges and iterations, culminating in a method that balanced visual fidelity with performance across different hardware configurations. Techniques such as bloom shading, exposure control, cube mapping for reflections, and refraction effects were integrated to enhance realism and visual appeal. Lost Coast received positive feedback for its visual advancements and design insights provided through the commentary mode. It served as a testament to Valve's commitment to pushing graphical boundaries and was seen as a precursor to future games leveraging advanced rendering techniques. Half-Life 2, Episode 1 is a first-person shooter game released by Valve in 2006 for Windows, continuing the narrative of Half-Life 2, 2004. Players once again assume the role of scientist Gordon Freeman, this time working alongside Alex Vance to escape City-17. Episode 1, like its predecessors, blends shooting, puzzles, and storytelling within the immersive Source Engine environment. Following the extensive 6-year development of Half-Life 2, Valve adopted an episodic approach for quicker game releases. Episode 1 aimed to deepen the character development of Alex Vance, enhancing her artificial intelligence to make her a more integral and responsive companion throughout the gameplay. The game utilized an updated version of the Source Engine, incorporating new lighting and animation technologies to enhance visual fidelity and atmospheric effects. Upon its release, Episode 1 received generally positive reviews, particularly praising the cooperative gameplay mechanics with Alex. However, criticism was directed at its relatively short length. The game was later ported to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 as part of the Orange Box compilation in 2007, which also included Half-Life 2 and its sequel Episode 2. Valve's decision to transition from standalone game releases to episodic content was driven by a desire to deliver more frequent updates to players and explore deeper character narratives within the Half-Life universe. The episodes were intended to offer a more immediate continuation of the storyline compared to the years-long waits between full game sequels. The development team expanded underwriters Mark Laidlaw, Chet Falasek, and Eric Wolpaw, focusing on character-driven storytelling and refining Alex's interactions with the player. Alex's AI was designed to dynamically respond to the player's actions, providing guidance and commentary while ensuring she did not overshadow or obstruct gameplay. Technical improvements included upgraded facial animations, enhanced enemy AI, and dynamic lighting effects that underscored the evolving environments of City-17 and the Citadel. These enhancements not only enriched the visual experience but also reinforced the narrative themes of resistance and consequence within the game world. Episode 1 marked a significant milestone in Valve's approach to episodic storytelling and technical innovation, paving the way for subsequent episodes and further exploration of the Half-Life saga's narrative depth and gameplay dynamics. Garry's Mod, developed by Facepunch Studios and published by Valve in November 2006, began as a mod for Valve's Source game engine. Created by Gary Newman, the game initially started as a side project while Newman was developing his first game, Face Wound. Newman's growing interest in Garry's Mod prompted him to shift focus away from Face Wound, leading to its eventual hiatus in 2004. Released in December 2004 as a mod for Half-Life 2, Garry's Mod received mixed feedback initially, with comparisons drawn to existing mods like JB Mod. However, positive reception spurred Newman to continue refining and expanding the game throughout 2004 and 2005, with significant updates culminating in version 9.0.4 by November 2005. Valve approached Newman with the idea of releasing Garry's Mod as a commercial standalone game on their digital distribution platform, Steam. Initially hesitant, Newman eventually agreed to a publishing agreement with Valve, releasing the standalone version on November 29, 2006, priced at $10. Despite transitioning from a mod to a standalone game, the title Garry's Mod was retained, a decision Newman later acknowledged as potentially misleading, suggesting Sandbox might have been a more fitting name. The standalone release required a separate source-based game for full functionality, leading to a bundled offering with Valve's Counter-Strike, Source. Over time, Garry's Mod expanded its platform support, with a Mac OS X version released in September 2010 and experimental Linux support introduced in June 2013 with Valve's SteamPipe Content Delivery System update. As of September 2021, Garry's Mod has sold over 20 million copies, solidifying its place as a widely popular sandbox game where players can freely manipulate objects and create custom game modes using the Steam Workshop. Its influence extends to other popular game modes like Trouble in Terrorist Town and Prop Hunt, developed by the community, showcasing the game's enduring appeal and creative potential. Sin Episodes: Emergence is a 2006 first-person shooter developed and published by Ritual Entertainment, serving as the inaugural installment in a planned series of episodic games for Windows. This series aimed to expand upon the 1998 game Sin. Utilizing the source game engine, Emergence marked a significant milestone as the first major computer game to adopt an episodic format and be distributed exclusively over the internet via Valve's Steam platform, bypassing traditional publisher involvement. Initially, 9 episodes were envisioned, but only the first episode, Emergence, was released. The game introduced players to a narrative-driven experience with a focus on episodic storytelling, reflecting a departure from traditional full-game releases. However, in 2007, Ritual Entertainment underwent changes when it was acquired by casual game developer Mumbo Jumbo. This acquisition led to a halt in the Sin Episodes series, as key developers departed and the future of the franchise became uncertain. Ritual's focus shifted towards creating high-quality casual games under Mumbo Jumbo's direction, effectively placing Sin Episodes on indefinite hiatus and possibly canceling future development altogether. Ritual Entertainment originally planned to release each episode of Sin Episodes every 6 months, priced at $19.95 and designed to offer a gameplay experience lasting between 4 to 6 hours per episode. Their vision encompassed a series comprising a total of 9 episodes, with initial releases focusing on single-player content while multiplayer modes such as cooperative and team-based modes were also envisaged. A key objective of Sin Episodes was to integrate interactivity, character-driven gameplay, and emergent AI. The game introduced a unique opt-in statistics system that aggregated player choices into a database, intending for future episodes to evolve based on player decisions. Ritual aimed to implement a community-driven approach where popular player choices could influence the direction of the game's narrative and gameplay mechanics in subsequent episodes. Sin Episodes utilized the source engine with additional proprietary technology developed by Ritual. One notable enhancement addressed limitations in the source engine concerning material types on props, allowing for more realistic and varied surface interactions within the game environment. Another innovative feature was the personal challenge system, which dynamically adjusted gameplay difficulty based on the player's performance. This system aimed to ensure a balanced and engaging experience across different skill levels. However, an initial bug in the system upon release caused excessive difficulty, which was later resolved through an update distributed via Steam on May 17, 2006. Ritual's experimental approach with Sin Episodes marked a pioneering effort in episodic gaming, leveraging player feedback and statistical data to shape ongoing development and refine gameplay experiences. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, also known as Dark Messiah, Might and Magic and subtitled Elements on Xbox 360, is a first-person action role-playing game developed by Arcane Studios. The player assumes the role of Sereth, the apprentice of the wizard Fenrig, who embarks on a mission to the city of Stonehelm. There, he joins an expedition aimed at recovering a potent artifact called the Skull of Shadows. Originally released in 2006 for PC, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic: Elements debuted on Xbox 360 in 2008. This version introduced additional levels within the single-player campaign, revamped the multiplayer mode, and implemented various bug fixes and adjustments tailored for console gameplay. Critical acclaim for Arcane's previous title, Arx Fatalis, paved the way for a collaboration with Valve to develop a new game on their source engine. Rafael Colantonio, opting to create a sequel titled Arx Fatalis 2, faced challenges due to the first game's poor sales, making it hard to secure a publisher. However, Ubisoft approached Arcane and proposed applying the Arx Fatalis game engine to the Might and Magic universe. This initiative led to the creation of Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, which refined the first-person melee combat mechanics from Arx Fatalis while reducing the emphasis on traditional role-playing elements. Regarding the game's release in Germany, Dark Messiah initially received a No Youth Release rating from the USK Entertainment Software Self-Regulation Body. Ubisoft then announced modifications for the German versions, including restrictions such as the inability to sever enemies' heads or limbs, restrictions on impaling enemies after death, and immediate death for burning enemies without further mutilation of their corpses. Ubisoft subsequently released a limited edition international version of the game, playable only in English, which mirrored the uncensored version available in most other countries. Despite these efforts, the Bundesprüfstelle, Federal Review Board for Media Harmful to Minors, eventually determined in February 2008 that the uncensored version of the game, despite its focus on melee combat and violent content, did not pose harm to minors due to its fantasy setting and elaborate storyline. As a result, the original uncensored version was re-evaluated by the USK and received a no youth release rating, although its release in Germany was still pending at the time. The Ship, later titled The Ship, Murder Party, is a first-person shooter video game developed by Outer Light using Valve's Source Engine. Initially released on July 11, 2006 via Steam, it later saw retail distribution in Europe and Australia in September 2006, followed by a North American release on April 10, 2007. The concept for The Ship originated as a playable modification for the game Half-Life in 2004. Set aboard a 1920s recreational cruise ship, the ship assigns each player a quarry whom they must discreetly murder without witnesses, while simultaneously evading and defending against their own pursuer. The game combines stealth, strategy, and action as players navigate the ship's various locales to execute their assigned targets and avoid detection themselves. The single-player story of The Ship begins with an ominous introduction from Mr. X, who announces his deadly game to the passengers aboard the cruise ship. The player assumes the role of Charlie Panther, a second-class passenger. After successfully eliminating his assigned target, Charlie encounters Jimmy the bellboy, who warns him of Mr. X's plan to destroy the ship after the hunt ends. Jimmy offers Charlie a way off the ship for $100,000, suggesting he first evade his own hunter by tricking them into believing he's asleep in the museum. To secure funds, Charlie assists Bruno, the bartender at Vesuvius Bar, in stealing from wealthy patrons. When suspicions arise, Jimmy redirects Charlie to the fence, who tasks him with stealing valuable items like the Holy Grail. Later, Charlie aids an ambassador while continuing to accumulate money. Upon returning to Jimmy, Charlie learns that Jimmy has been attacked and wants revenge. Charlie orchestrates the assailant's demise and earns a reduced escape fee. Further missions lead Charlie to eliminate the ship's captain, resolve a dog kidnapping, and sabotage the radar. As Charlie escapes in a boat, a massive explosion splits the ship, hinting at its sinking. Surprisingly, Mrs. Tweed's dog survives, and Charlie wakes up in a hospital bed as Mr. X's voice echoes ominously nearby. Half-Life 2, Episode 2 is a first-person shooter game developed and published by Valve in 2007. Serving as a direct continuation of its predecessor, Episode 1, 2006, it extends the narrative of Half-Life 2, 2004. Players once again assume the role of Gordon Freeman, accompanied by his ally Alex Vance, as they navigate the treacherous mountainous terrain surrounding City 17 to reach a resistance stronghold. Maintaining the series' hallmark blend of shooting, puzzle solving, and storytelling, Episode 2 introduces larger, more open environments and less linear gameplay sequences. It was initially released on October 10, 2007, for Windows via Valve's Steam distribution platform. It also became available as part of the Orange Box, a comprehensive compilation of Valve's games for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with the PlayStation version published by Electronic Arts. Episode 2 garnered positive reviews for its engaging narrative continuation, refined gameplay mechanics, and expansive level design. Episode 2 was the second installment in a planned trilogy of episodic games continuing the storyline from Half-Life 2, 2004. Developed concurrently with Episode 1, 2006, it was led by David Sparer's team at Valve. This simultaneous development strategy aimed to ensure a cohesive narrative flow between the two games. Both episodes utilized the same technology, facilitating quick resolution of any technical issues that arose, given their multi-platform release. Originally, the team intended Episode 2 to conclude with a humorous sequence featuring Lamar, Dr. Kleiner's pet head crab, floating in space outside a rocket launched by Gordon. However, Valve's president Gabe Newell suggested a different direction, opting to kill off a major character to create a dramatic cliffhanger leading into Episode 3. Valve announced on July 13, 2006, that Episode 2 would launch not only on PC but also on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, marking a departure from previous releases that were PC exclusive. Valve managed development for PC and Xbox 360, while Electronic Arts (EA) handled the PlayStation 3 version. Delays were announced for the PlayStation 3 release due to logistical challenges, as the EA studio responsible was geographically separated from Valve's main development team. Like its predecessor, Episode 2 included an audio commentary feature. Notably, Tony Todd took over the role of voicing the Vortigaunts, replacing Louis Gossett Jr. These elements contributed to Episode 2's reception for maintaining consistent functionality and performance across all platforms. Team Fortress 2, TF2, is a multiplayer first-person shooter developed and published by Valve Corporation in 2007. It serves as the sequel to the original Team Fortress mod for Quake, 1996, and its remake, Team Fortress Classic, 1999. Initially released as part of the Orange Box in October 2007 for Windows and Xbox 360, with a PlayStation 3 port following in December 2007, TF2 became a standalone title for Windows in April 2008. Subsequent updates extended support to macOS in June 2010 and Linux in February 2013. The game is primarily distributed via Valve's digital platform, Steam, with retail and console editions managed by Electronic Arts. In TF2, players align with either the red, Reliable Excavation Demolition, or blue, Builders League United, teams and select from 9 distinct character classes. Game modes include classics like Capture the Flag and King of the Hill. Development was led by John Cook and Robin Walker, creators of the original Team Fortress mod. Originally announced in 1998 as Team Fortress 2, Brotherhood of Arms, the game underwent significant visual and gameplay changes over its protracted 9-year development period. After years of speculation and absence from public view, TF2 emerged in 2007 on Valve's Source Engine with a revamped, stylized art direction inspired by mid-20th century illustrators such as J.C. Leyendecker and Norman Rockwell, along with a thematic nod to 1960s spy films. TF2 has earned critical acclaim for its distinctive art style, engaging gameplay, humor, and deep characterizations within a multiplayer framework. It is frequently lauded as one of the greatest video games ever made. Valve continues to support the game with regular updates and seasonal content sourced from community submissions via the Steam Workshop. In June 2011, TF2 adopted a free-to-play model supported by microtransactions for cosmetic items. A drop system was also implemented, providing in-game rewards to players, including those who play for free. Official competitive play was introduced in July 2016 through ranked matchmaking, alongside enhancements to the casual gameplay experience. Since early 2020, TF2 has faced challenges from a wave of bot accounts using cheating software on Valve's official servers, prompting community protests for stricter measures against these disruptions to fair play. Despite these issues, TF2 remains a beloved and enduring title in the multiplayer shooter genre, celebrated for its innovative gameplay mechanics and enduring community engagement. The original Team Fortress was developed by TF Software, an Australian team consisting of Robin Walker and John Cook, initially as a free mod for the PC game Quake in 1996. In 1998, Walker and Cook joined Valve, which had just launched its first game, Half-Life. Valve initially planned Team Fortress 2 as an expansion pack for Half-Life, using Valve's Gold Source engine, with an intended release by the end of 1999. However, in 1999, Valve released Team Fortress Classic, a free mod for Half-Life that was a port of the original Team Fortress. Unlike the original Team Fortress, Valve envisioned Team Fortress 2 with a modern war aesthetic. Planned features included a command hierarchy with a commander class, parachute drops into enemy territory, and networked voice communication. The commander class would operate like a real-time strategy game, allowing players to view the battlefield from a bird's-eye perspective and issue orders to both human players and AI-controlled soldiers. Team Fortress 2 was first showcased at E3 1999 under the title Team Fortress 2: Brotherhood of Arms, where Valve introduced innovative technologies such as parametric animation for smoother character movements and Intel's multi-resolution mesh technology to optimize performance by reducing detail on distant objects. The game received accolades at the event, including Best Online Game and Best Action Game. Despite the initial buzz, Valve announced in mid-2000 that Team Fortress 2 was delayed again, citing a shift in development to their new in-house engine, Source. Following this announcement, Valve went silent about the game for 6 years. During this period, Walker led the development of Half-Life 2, Episode 1, while Cook contributed to Valve's content distribution platform, Steam. Team Fortress 2 became emblematic of vaporware, a term for highly anticipated games that face prolonged development delays. It was often mentioned alongside Duke Nukem Forever, another long-delayed title. Walker later revealed that Valve experimented with multiple versions of Team Fortress 2 before settling on the final design. Valve's marketing director, Doug Lombardi, confirmed in 2004, just before the release of Half-Life 2, that Team Fortress 2 was still in development, keeping hopes alive for its eventual release. Valve reintroduced Team Fortress 2 at the EA Summer Showcase event in July 2006, shifting away from its original realistic visual design. Instead, the game adopted a cartoon-like style influenced by 20th-century commercial illustrations and the works of artists like J.C. Leyendecker, Dean Cornwell, and Norman Rockwell. This distinctive visual aesthetic was achieved using Gooch shading techniques and showcased the Source engine's new dynamic lighting, shadowing, and soft particle technologies, alongside facial animation 3 features, a first for the engine. The decision to move towards a stylized art direction came as Valve found it challenging to reconcile the realistic style with the game's exaggerated and unrealistic gameplay elements, such as opposing teams building elaborate bases right next to each other. The Commander class, originally planned for strategic gameplay, was scrapped due to player resistance to following orders. Each character, team, and weapon in Team Fortress 2 was meticulously designed to be visually distinct, even at a distance. The color scheme and design elements were crafted to draw attention to key areas like the chest, highlighting the equipped weapons. Voice acting for the classes was based on 1960s stereotypes, adding to the game's unique charm. Map design in Team Fortress 2 revolves around an evil genius theme, with bases hidden within mundane structures like warehouses and farms, separated by neutral zones. These bases feature exaggerated super weapons like laser cannons and missile facilities, serving as objectives. The maps are designed with minimal visual clutter and stylized textures that have been hand-filtered from photographs to give them a tactile, almost painterly quality, aiding in quick enemy identification. At the Electronic Arts Conference, Valve announced that Team Fortress 2 would be included as the multiplayer component of the Orange Box, a compilation pack also featuring Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2, Episode 1, Half-Life 2, Episode 2, and Portal. Gabe Newell, Valve's president, expressed the team's aim to create the best-looking and best-playing class-based multiplayer game. Team Fortress 2 was officially released on October 10, 2007, available both as a standalone purchase via Steam and bundled in the Orange Box at retail stores. Prior to its release, Valve offered a beta test to customers who pre-purchased the Orange Box, activated their Black Box coupon with ATI HD 2900 XT graphics cards, or were members of Valve's Cyber Cafe program, further building anticipation for the game's debut. Portal, developed and published by Valve in 2007, debuted as part of the Orange Box bundle for Windows, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3, and has since been adapted to multiple platforms including Mac OS X, Linux, Android, via NVIDIA Shield, and Nintendo Switch. The core gameplay of Portal revolves around solving puzzles using the Aperture Science handheld Portal device or Portal gun. This device creates portals between two flat planes, allowing the player character, Chell, to teleport herself and objects across distances. Set within the Aperture Science Enrichment Center, Chell is guided through the challenges by GLaDOS, genetic lifeform and disk operating system, and artificial intelligence with a penchant for dark humor and a promise of cake upon completing all puzzles. The physics system of the Source engine adds complexity by conserving kinetic energy through portals, requiring players to think creatively to navigate through the test chambers. This gameplay concept evolved from Narbacular Drop, a precursor developed by DG Penn Institute of Technology alumni who joined Valve to create Portal, effectively making it a spiritual successor to that game. Upon its release, Portal garnered acclaim for its originality and unique gameplay mechanics, despite criticism for its short duration. It was praised for its darkly comedic narrative and GLaDOS's memorable characterization, voiced by Ellen McLain in the English version. The game's end credits song Still Alive, composed by Jonathan Coulton specifically for Portal, also received accolades for its originality and humor. Portal is frequently cited as one of the greatest video games ever made and has sold over 4 million copies worldwide, excluding Steam downloads. Its popularity led to official merchandise from Valve, including a model Portal gun and plush companion cubes, as well as fan-created tributes such as recreations of the infamous cake. Valve later released a standalone version titled Portal, Still Alive on Xbox Live Arcade in October 2008, featuring additional puzzles exclusively for Xbox 360. In 2011, Valve followed up with Portal 2, expanding the storyline, introducing new gameplay mechanics, and incorporating a cooperative multiplayer mode, further solidifying Portal's legacy in the gaming industry. Development of Portal began with Narbacular Drop, a freeware game developed in 2005 by students at the DG Penn Institute of Technology. Robin Walker, a developer at Valve, discovered Narbacular Drop at DG Penn's career fair and was impressed by its Portal mechanics and physics interactions. Following a presentation at Valve's offices, Gabe Newell, Valve's president, offered the team jobs to further develop the game at Valve, recognizing their innovative approach and technical achievements. To explore the potential of the Portal mechanic, the team initially created a prototype using an in-house 2D game engine similar to the one used at DG Penn. They retained certain elements from Narbacular Drop, such as the distinct orange and blue Portal endpoints, but modified the gameplay significantly. Notably, in Portal, players cannot create a portal through an existing one, a feature absent in Narbacular Drop. The game's original concept, which featured a princess escaping a dungeon, was abandoned in favor of a narrative set within the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. Development of Portal spanned approximately 2 years and 4 months after the DG Penn team joined Valve, with a team of no more than 10 people involved in its creation. Initially, the focus was on gameplay mechanics without a structured narrative. However, playtesters expressed interest in the purpose behind the test chambers, prompting the team to develop a narrative framework. Valve collaborated with Mark Laidlaw, known for his work on the Half-Life series, to integrate Portal into the Half-Life universe. This decision, driven partly by resource constraints, allowed Valve to reuse assets from Half-Life 2 rather than creating new ones for Portal. The writers Eric Woolpaw and Chet Falasek were tasked with crafting Portal's narrative, centered around an AI guiding players through tests using the Portal gun within the Aperture Science facility. This AI, GLaDOS, underwent personality shifts throughout the game, marking key narrative points. The concept of using cake as a reward stemmed from early brainstorming sessions among the development team. According to Woolpaw, after deliberating on philosophical influences, the idea of cake emerged humorously during discussions. The inclusion of additional narrative elements, such as messages hidden in behind-the-scenes areas and the iconic Still Alive end credits song by Jonathan Coulton, further enriched Portal's storytelling. The character Chell, the protagonist, was modeled after American actress and voiceover artist Alizia Glidewell, chosen for her facial and body structure. Ellen McLain provided the voice for GLaDOS, adapting her initial sultry voice audition into GLaDOS's distinct final voice. Throughout development, Portal underwent several design iterations for its final battle and puzzle mechanics, including influences from psychological experiments and films. The weighted companion cube, a memorable gameplay element, was inspired by psychological studies on human attachment to inanimate objects, evolving from early gameplay experiments known as the Box Marathon. Portal's legacy includes its innovative gameplay, dark humor, and memorable characters, setting it apart as one of the most original games of 2007 and a milestone in puzzle platform gaming history. Dystopia is a team-based, objective-driven first-person shooter video game developed as a total conversion modification on Valve's Source Engine. Inspired by the cyberpunk genre, particularly the Shadowrun role-playing game, it was created by an amateur development team and released for free to the public. The first playable build of Dystopia was launched on September 9, 2005, following a year of planning and 9 months of development. The full version 1 was released after 3 years on February 25, 2007. Critics have generally praised Dystopia for its high-quality graphics, unique gameplay mechanics that blend meatspace and cyberspace elements, overall polish, and its depiction of cyberspace. However, some criticism has been directed at its initial accessibility and steep learning curve. Despite this, Dystopia has garnered multiple awards, including Best Mod for Half-Life 2 at the Independent Games Festival's modding competition. Dystopia is set in a futuristic world dominated by interconnected computer networks. Players immerse themselves in this cyberpunk universe, choosing sides between two factions, the punk mercenaries, punks, and the corporate security forces, core. Conflict between these factions unfolds across two distinct realms, the physical world, meatspace, and the virtual world, cyberspace, where actions in one realm impact the other. Gameplay in Dystopia revolves around completing objectives within a specified time frame. Typically, the punks, on the attacking team, strive to achieve their objectives and advance through the level, while the core, defending, work to thwart their progress and potentially push them back. This structure resembles modes seen in games like Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, and Unreal Tournament's Assault mode. Notably, Dystopia's gameplay complexity is heightened by its dual-layered approach, requiring coordination between meatspace and cyberspace for many final objectives. Players select from 3 distinct character classes, light, medium, and heavy augmented armor, each offering unique strengths and weaknesses in terms of speed, health, and armor. Each class equips up to 4 primary weapons specific to their class, alongside a semi-silenced machine pistol, a melee weapon, and grenades tailored to their role. The light class excels in agility and stealth, utilizing weapons like a double-barreled shotgun, a bolt gun firing electrical bolts, a laser-powered rifle, or automatic pistols known as smart locks. They carry EMP grenades to disable enemy implants. The medium class balances speed, armor, and implant versatility, choosing from weapons such as an assault rifle, semi-automatic rifle, grenade launcher, or electrical arcs and balls weapon, along with frag grenades. The heavy class trades speed for substantial armor and health, ideal for defensive strategies or leading assaults in heavily fortified areas. Their arsenal includes a rocket launcher, minigun, ion cannon, or high-powered automatic shotgun, complemented by spider grenades that track enemies. Further customization is achieved through implants, abilities that players can select upon spawning to refine their playstyle or role within the team. Implants are categorized into headspace, affecting the head, and body space, affecting the body, with varying space allowances depending on the class. Examples include leg boosters for enhanced mobility, thermal vision for heat signature tracking, stealth for camouflage, and cyberdeck for accessing cyberspace. Dystopia's blend of strategic depth, class-specific gameplay, and dual environment challenges has garnered praise for its innovative design within the cyberpunk genre, despite initial criticisms regarding accessibility and learning curves. The game has been recognized with accolades such as Best Mod for Half-Life 2 at the Independent Games Festival's modding competition, underscoring its impact within the gaming community. Insurgency: Modern Infantry Combat is a multiplayer tactical shooter mod built on Valve's Source Engine, developed by the Insurgency development team. Released on October 23, 2007, for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, the game is set against the backdrop of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan, focusing on the conflict between the United States Marine Corps and the Iraqi insurgency. Following its launch, Insurgency: Modern Infantry Combat achieved significant success, prompting the mod's developers to establish New World Interactive in 2010. This laid the foundation for a standalone sequel, Insurgency, which was released in 2014. Gameplay in Insurgency: Modern Infantry Combat centers around team-based multiplayer battles with a strong emphasis on tactical, objective-based engagements. Players align themselves with either the United States Marine Corps or the insurgents, a faction inspired by the Taliban, and are organized into squads led by squad leaders. Squad leaders issue commands to their team members to attack, defend, or secure specific points on the map. Each squad member selects from a variety of limited-role character classes such as Rifleman, Support Gunner, Engineer, or Marksman, each equipped with distinct weapons and equipment. The game employs a pseudo-realistic approach to weaponry, removing on-screen crosshairs and requiring players to use the iron sights of their weapons for accurate aiming. Hip-firing is challenging due to the free aim system. Weapons are designed to be lethal, often capable of incapacitating players with just 1 or 2 shots to the torso, aiming to simulate real-life ballistics. Insurgency: Modern Infantry Combat employs a reinforcement wave system instead of a conventional respawn mechanism. Players respawn together in waves at set intervals, with each faction having a limited number of waves. If a faction exhausts its waves and all remaining players are eliminated, that faction loses the round, resulting in victory for the opposing team. Overall, the game's blend of realistic weapon mechanics, tactical gameplay, and objective-driven missions has been well received among players and critics alike, contributing to its success within the tactical shooter genre. Development for Operation Counterinsurgency, OPCOIN, began in 2002 under the initiative of Andrew Spearin, drawing on his first-hand experiences in the Canadian Army. The goal was to create a realistic, squad-based multiplayer first-person shooter. In 2005, Jeremy Blum, the creator of the Red Orchestra mod, joined the team, along with other former Red Orchestra developers. Blum rebranded the project to Insurgency, later known as Insurgency: Modern Infantry Combat. Full production commenced, leading to the game's first public release in 2007. Over the subsequent years, several updates were rolled out, introducing new content and enhancing gameplay. By 2012, developers at New World Interactive announced their work on a sequel titled Insurgency 2, alongside the establishment of a dedicated website for the Insurgency franchise. The game was eventually renamed simply Insurgency and was launched on Steam Early Access in March 2013. 10 months later, on January 22, 2014, Insurgency officially released. In February 2016, New World Interactive unveiled Insurgency: Sandstorm, a sequel to the original game. Published by Focus Home Interactive and utilizing Unreal Engine 4, Insurgency: Sandstorm was initially slated for release in 2017. The Windows version premiered on December 12, 2018, on Steam to widespread critical acclaim from both reviewers and players. Subsequently, console versions for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X/S were released on September 29, 2021. Left 4 Dead, released in 2008, is a first-person shooter developed by Valve South and published by Valve. Initially available for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 in November 2008, it later launched on Mac OS X in October 2010, marking the inception of the Left 4 Dead series. The game unfolds in the aftermath of a zombie outbreak along the east coast of the United States, casting 4 protagonists known as the Survivors against swarms of the infected. Powered by Valve's proprietary Source Engine, Left 4 Dead offers 4 distinct game modes. Players can engage in a single-player mode where AI controls the allied characters, embark on a cooperative 4-player campaign, participate in an 8-player online versus mode, or challenge the 4-player survival mode. Across all modes, an adaptive artificial intelligence called the Director dynamically adjusts level pacing and item placements to heighten the game's intensity and replayability. Critically acclaimed upon its release, Left 4 Dead garnered praise for its cooperative gameplay, cinematic atmosphere, and strong emphasis on replay value. However, some reviewers noted its limited selection of levels and minimal narrative depth. Regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made, it received numerous industry awards, including accolades from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences and the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. Similar to Valve's approach with Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead benefited from free downloadable content updates, enhancing its longevity and player engagement. Left 4 Dead, developed by Valve South and published by Valve in 2008, originated from a modification named Terror Strike created by Turtle Rock Studios for Counter-Strike: Condition Zero. This mod evolved when Turtle Rock worked on Counter-Strike: Source, refining it into a horror-themed scenario where players combat zombies. Originally pitched to Valve for a standalone release, the project gained traction after Valve writer Chet Falasek advocated for its development. Valve greenlight Left 4 Dead's production in mid-2005, with significant expansion under Falasek's leadership, involving over 100 Valve employees. The goal was to blend the character-driven narrative structure of single-player games with the social dynamics and replayability of multiplayer experiences. To bolster the game's visibility, Valve allocated $10 million to a marketing campaign spanning the United States and Europe, utilizing TV, print, web, and outdoor advertising. Additionally, Valve engaged players through contests like Dude, Where's My Thumb, to enhance community involvement. Using Valve's Source Engine, Left 4 Dead incorporated multi-core processor support, physics-based animations for realistic movement, and enhanced AI for dynamic enemy behavior. Visual enhancements included self-shadowing normal mapping, advanced shadow rendering, and atmospheric effects like wet surfaces and fog to enhance the horror ambience. Post-processing effects such as dynamic color correction, film grain, and vignetting further intensified the cinematic feel. Throughout development, many features were iterated upon or removed based on playtesting feedback. For instance, the Screamer Infected, designed to attract hordes with its scream, influenced the Boomer's mechanics. A proposed merit/demerit system for player behavior was scrapped in favor of immediate feedback, and extensive cutscenes were minimized to maintain replayability. Valve's commitment to Left 4 Dead extended post-launch with free content updates and DLC, enriching both PC and Xbox 360 versions. The game's success led to a sequel, Left 4 Dead 2, released in 2009, which continued to expand the series' narrative and gameplay. Left 4 Dead's enduring popularity is reflected in its integration into other games and media, such as cameos in Zombie Army Trilogy and Dead by Daylight, demonstrating its lasting impact on gaming culture. Left 4 Dead 2, developed and published by Valve in 2009, is the follow-up to Left 4 Dead 2008, and the second game in the Left 4 Dead series. Initially launched for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 in November 2009, it was later released for Mac OS X in October 2010 and Linux in July 2013. Utilizing Valve's proprietary Source Engine, the same technology as its predecessor, Left 4 Dead 2 maintains its focus on cooperative gameplay. The game is set in the aftermath of a devastating pandemic, where players control 4 new survivors fighting against psychotic, aggressive zombies known as the Infected. Players navigate through 5 unique campaigns, each marked by safe houses serving as checkpoints, aiming to escape at each campaign's finale. A key feature is the AI Director 2.0, which dynamically adjusts scenarios based on player performance to keep the gameplay challenging and engaging. The sequel also introduces new special infected enemies and expands the arsenal to include melee weapons in addition to firearms. Left 4 Dead 2 premiered at E3 2009 with a trailer during Microsoft's press event. Prior to its release, the game received mixed reactions from critics and the community, attracting controversy for its graphic content, leading to changes in the cover art. However, initial versions faced rating issues in countries like Australia and Germany. Despite these challenges, the game was critically acclaimed and is now regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made. Development for Left 4 Dead 2 began shortly after the release of the first game, following a brief hiatus. The team aimed to build upon the original ideas to create a more expansive experience. In a 2023 interview, Chet Falasek revealed that the rapid development of Left 4 Dead left it in a state that Valve chose not to extensively revise, opting instead to develop a new game rather than retrofit the existing one with features like mod support. This led to the decision to rebuild the game from scratch under the codename Carnation, focusing on robust development practices to avoid the issues encountered during the creation of the first game. Falasek emphasized that Left 4 Dead 2's narrative would explore more of the game's world, with Valve crafting a comprehensive backstory detailing the origins and effects of the infection pandemic, using terms derived from their AI director system. Each campaign was designed to offer a unique atmosphere. The entire team worked on all 5 campaigns simultaneously to ensure a cohesive narrative flow and distinctive gameplay experiences. A specialized Left 4 Dead dictionary was developed to standardize level design terminology and facilitate seamless communication within the team during development. Left 4 Dead 2 features around 7,800 unique lines of dialogue, a 40% increase over its predecessor. Writers meticulously crafted characters and selected voice actors who could naturally deliver authentic accents, allowing for improvisation during recording sessions to enhance character realism. Notably, Randall Newsom, a local actor fluent in Cajun, provided unique insights for the role of Boat Captain Virgil. Valve collaborated with bands like Depeche Mode, incorporating their music and imagery into the game, adding to its atmospheric appeal, such as featuring on the character Rochelle's t-shirt. In developing new infected types, the team explored various abilities and their integration with existing mechanics. Concepts like the leaker, which could emit damaging goo and self-detonate to create strategic opportunities for survivors, were considered but ultimately refined into the spitter's mechanics. Technological advancements included enhancing visual variety for infected models by manipulating textures and geometry to create up to 24,000 variations per model, significantly reducing memory usage while maintaining visual fidelity. Valve's programmers also innovated ways to depict damage inflicted on infected, using advanced texture and rendering techniques to dynamically simulate wounds based on weapon impact. This feature expanded upon the original game to optimize performance on consoles like the Xbox 360. Visual enhancements extended to environmental elements like water rendering, crucial in campaigns such as Swamp Fever. Valve used tools like Houdini to craft realistic water flow patterns and surface maps to guide player navigation, reducing confusion in expansive maps and setting the groundwork for future projects like Portal 2. Doug Lombardi confirmed that the SDK released for Left 4 Dead would also support Left 4 Dead 2, fostering community content creation and ensuring continuity between the two games. Xenoclash is a first-person fighting video game with elements of a first-person shooter. Developed by ACE Team, it is their debut game and utilizes the Source engine. The game was released for download via Steam on April 21, 2009. An Xbox 360 version, titled Xenoclash Ultimate Edition, was released on May 5, 2010, featuring additional content not available in the Windows version. Set in the fantasy world of Xenozoic, the game follows Gott, a young man fleeing from his vengeful siblings, and Deidre, his female companion, as they journey through bizarre and exotic landscapes. Critics lauded the game's peculiar yet compelling setting and unique character designs. It was a finalist for excellence in visual art at the 2009 Independent Games Festival and was named 2009's Independent Game of the Year by PC Gamer. IGN also awarded it PC Game of the Month in April 2009. While Xenoclash was ACE Team's first original game, the developers had been creating game modifications since the 1990s. Their previous project, Xenozoic, was far more ambitious, attempting to integrate elements of shooting, role-playing, melee combat, and sandbox gameplay. Realizing this scope was too large for a small independent studio, ACE Team decided to focus on a more streamlined game. This decision led to the creation of Xenoclash, which features linear player exploration and excludes role-playing elements. Initially conceived as a total conversion modification using the Source Engine, ACE team showcased a demo to Valve, who were impressed by the game's quality. This led to an engine licensing and distribution deal between the two companies. In an interview, the developers described Xenoclash as a first-person fighter with some shooter elements, comparing it to Dark Messiah meets Double Dragon. They drew significant inspiration from traditional fighting games, incorporating elements such as versus screens before combat. The game's unique art style was influenced by Hieronymus Bosch's paintings and John Blanche's punk fantasy illustrations. Despite some publishers' concerns about the game's distinct art direction, ACE team remained committed to their vision, creating a visually unique game. To achieve their desired organic look, they used static props from 3D Studio Max with pre-rendered lighting instead of Source's brush-based geometry. In October 2009, ACE team announced a partnership with Atlus to release a port of the game for Xbox Live Arcade. This version, called Xenoclash Ultimate Edition, included new game modes and features such as cooperative gameplay for tower challenges, new attacks, new weapons, a new voice actress for the character Deidre, a character gallery, and an awareness system. Xenoclash Ultimate Edition was released on Xbox Live Arcade on May 5, 2010. In July 2009, ACE team released the game's SDK to facilitate easier modding. Neo Tokyo, stylized as Neo Tokyo Degree, is a multiplayer tactical first-person shooter set in a futuristic cyberpunk world. It is a total conversion modification of Half-Life 2, developed by the American studio Roddy8. Initially released on July 3, 2009, it was re-released on Steam on July 4, 2014, after being voted through Steam Greenlight on October 16, 2012. The game features a dystopian setting, drawing artistic, musical, and aesthetic inspiration from works like Akira, Deus Ex, and Ghost in the Shell. Neo Tokyo is set in Tokyo, roughly 30 years in the future. After a proposal to amend the Japanese constitution to allow foreign deployment of Japanese soldiers fails, extreme nationalist factions within the Japan Self-Defense Forces attempt a military coup d'état. In response, the Japanese Prime Minister consolidated former military intelligence operatives and police officers into a special unit within the Interior Ministry's National Security Force, NSF, called Group 6, tasked with rooting out coup plotters and enforcing the law both domestically and internationally. Rumors soon emerged that an unknown faction within the JGSDF Special Forces unit Jinrai is planning another coup. This faction, comprised of ultranationalists from Special Operations Group 43, is determined to succeed in their efforts. The conflict between these two factions sets the stage for the game. Neo Tokyo has been in development since October 2004. Initially designed as a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, featuring a deathmatch mode with capture points, the development later shifted to Valve's 2006 Source Engine. The game was then remade from scratch and released in 2009. Ghost in the Shell and Akira were major inspirations for the game's art style and cyberpunk aesthetic. Although the Roddy8 team stopped developing the game soon after its release on the Steam platform, dedicated fans have made several attempts to revive it with community content. These efforts include full rewrites and reworks of the game, such as adapting it to a newer version of the Source Engine. Ubisoft for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360, released in October 2010. As a spiritual successor to Outer Light's debut title, The Ship, Bloody Good Time offers similar but enhanced gameplay and graphics. The game includes 4 different modes: Hunt, Elimination, Revenge, and Deathmatch. It supports online matches for up to 8 players and features an arcade mode where players can compete against AI bots. The game utilizes Valve's Source Engine. Set on a Hollywood movie set, Bloody Good Time offers 3 distinct maps: Beach, Casino, and Horror House. Players can choose from 8 B-movie characters: the Surfer, the Beach Babe, the Goth, the Bunny Girl, the Showgirl, the clown, the gambler, and the stoner, and used 21 different weapons, ranging from conventional guns to quirky items like frying pans and remote-controlled rats. Despite its unique concept, the game received a lukewarm reception and poor sales, contributing to the eventual demise of Outer Light. Vindictus is a free-to-play MMORPG developed by DevCat, an internal studio of Nexon. In the game, players assume the role of a mercenary, undertaking various missions to battle monsters. The gameplay focuses on dungeon exploration, monster combat, and character upgrades. Originally released on January 21, 2010, in South Korea as Mabinogi Heroes, the game was later introduced to North America and other regions under the name Vindictus. It serves as a prequel to DevCat's earlier MMORPG, Mabinogi, sharing the same world but featuring different gameplay mechanics. Vindictus is a live service game, continually updated with new content. Upon release, it received generally positive reviews, especially for its combat system. Vindictus was developed using the Source engine, as explained by director Eun Suk-hee in an interview. The team opted for the Source physics engine to enhance realism and interactivity throughout the game world. As a prequel to DevCat's MMORPG Mabinogi, Vindictus shares the same universe but diverges in gameplay. Another installment in the series, Mabinogi 2 Arena, was planned but ultimately cancelled in 2014. In 2015, an update for Vindictus included artwork from Diablo III, Reaper of Souls, which was later removed by Nexon following public feedback and an apology. In February 2024, Nexon unveiled Vindictus, Defying Fate, a new action RPG set in the Vindictus universe, developed using Unreal Engine. The game reintroduces familiar characters like Lon and Fiona from the original Vindictus. A public pre-alpha test for Defying Fate took place the following month. Vindictus made its debut in South Korea on January 21, 2010. In North America, the game entered open beta on September 15, followed by its official full release 1 month later. Initially, Vindictus was exclusively distributed through Nexon's website, later expanding to the Steam platform in 2012. Between 2011 and 2015, the game saw releases in Europe, Australia, and various other Asian regions. However, over time, some of these regional versions were either shut down or merged with the North American server. EYE, Divine Cybermancy is an action role-playing first-person shooter video game crafted by Streamon Studio, utilizing Valve's Source engine. Set in a cyberpunk-themed universe, the game draws inspiration from an unreleased private tabletop role-playing game titled AVA, which Streamon Studio originally developed in 1998. The studio has indicated that there are no current plans to release AVA publicly in the future. EYE, Divine Cybermancy underwent approximately 2 years of development before its release on the Steam platform. EYE, Divine Cybermancy unfolds in a dystopian future where players assume the role of an EYE member, a clandestine and elite group of cybernetic warrior monks. They belong to the military arm of the Secretus Secretorum, an ancient cult dedicated to combating demons since before humanity's expansion into space. Equipped with advanced technology, cybernetic enhancements, and psychic abilities, EYE members navigate a chaotic universe threatened by the Metastromonic Force, an alien army believed to embody the remnants of civilizations destroyed during human colonization. Amidst this turmoil, the Secretus Secretorum aims to seize power from the corrupt Federation, a sprawling human government spanning numerous worlds and controlled by various governments and megacorporations. Complicating matters further, EYE is divided into 2 factions, the Jianshangdi and the Culture Day, with the player belonging to the latter. Former allies, these factions are now embroiled in a secretive civil conflict. The game begins with the player awakening from a failed operation that resulted in the death of comrades, with no memory of recent events. As they fight through Federation forces to return to EYE's base, cryptic messages warn against trusting anyone. Loyalties become pivotal, torn between Commander Rimana, a paternal yet power-hungry leader of the Culture Day, and a mentor figure seeking to unify the factions. Players must decide whom to support: Ramana, who aims to eradicate the Jianshang Di, or the Mentor, whose cause has the player's sole backing. These choices lead to 3 distinct storylines, including one where the player betrays EYE to align with the Federation. Each storyline culminates in a unique ending, all involving a climactic battle within EYE's temple headquarters where Ramana is confronted and defeated. However, mysterious circumstances transport the player character back to the beginning of the game after each ending. A fourth, true ending becomes accessible after achieving all 3 main endings with the same character, offering a deeper resolution to the game's intricate narrative. Alien Swarm is a multiplayer top-down shooter video game developed by Valve. Originally a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, it was recreated by the same team who were subsequently hired by Valve during its development. In Alien Swarm, up to 4 players can team up in cooperative gameplay, navigating science fiction-themed levels while combating waves of aliens. Players have access to a diverse arsenal of equipment, including assault rifles, grenade launchers, mines, and healing beacons, totaling 40 different options. The game features persistent statistics, unlockable gear, and achievement rewards to enhance replayability. The gameplay is structured around class-based roles: officer, special weapons, medic, and tech. Each class offers 2 distinct characters with unique abilities, allowing players to strategize based on their preferred playstyle and team composition. Before embarking on each mission, players have the opportunity to customize their characters' loadouts and select offhand items. As they progress through missions, they earn experience points that contribute to leveling up. With each level gained, new weapons and items become available for use. Missions in Alien Swarm typically involve the team advancing together toward objectives placed along the way. Progress is often hindered by obstacles that require various methods to overcome, such as welding, shooting, or hacking key points encountered throughout the level. Meanwhile, players must fend off relentless attacks from a variety of aliens collectively known as the Swarm. These creatures spawn unpredictably and swarm the players in large numbers, utilizing different attack strategies and behaviors. Combat against the Swarm employs a range of tools, including firearms, explosives, and environmental hazards like explosive barrels. Alien Swarm originally gained prominence as a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, where it earned recognition as Mod of the Year from GameSpy in 2004, 9, 10. It was also a runner-up for the Best Mod award by Computer Games magazine that same year, narrowly losing to Red Orchestra: Combined Arms. Following its success, a Source Engine sequel titled Alien Swarm: Infested was announced in 2005. However, updates on its development ceased by late 2007, leaving its status uncertain. In July 2010, Valve announced the release of Alien Swarm, revealing that they had hired the team behind the original mod. This team had completed the mod while also contributing to other Valve projects such as Left 4 Dead and Portal 2. Accompanying the release of Alien Swarm was a software development kit, SDK, that included buildable source code. Unlike the mainline Source SDK, which typically requires ownership of other Valve games, this SDK was freely available to all users of Steam. This decision enabled total conversion mods that do not rely on content from other Valve games to be accessible to all users, aligning with the strategy of the Unreal Development Kit. The SDK and its software license permit extensive usage and sharing for non-commercial purposes. Portal 2 is a 2011 puzzle platform game developed by Valve for various platforms, including Windows, Mac OS X, Linux, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. The digital PC version is distributed through Valve's Steam service, while Electronic Arts handled the distribution of all retail editions. A port for the Nintendo Switch was included in the Portal Companion Collection. As with the original Portal 2007, players solve puzzles by placing portals and teleporting between them. Portal 2 introduces new gameplay elements such as tractor beams, lasers, light bridges, and paint-like gels that modify player movement or enable portals to be placed on any surface. In the single-player campaign, players control Chell, who navigates the decaying Aperture Science Enrichment Center as it is being rebuilt by the supercomputer GLaDOS, voiced by Ellen McLain. New characters include the robot Wheatley, voiced by Stephen Merchant, and Aperture Science founder Cave Johnson, voiced by J.K. Simmons. The game also features a new cooperative mode where players solve puzzles together as robots Atlas and Peabody, both voiced by D. Bradley Baker. Music for the game includes songs by Jonathan Coulton and The National. Valve announced Portal 2 in March 2010 and promoted it through alternate reality games, including The Potato Sack, a collaboration with several independent game developers. Post-release, Valve provided downloadable content and a simplified map editor, allowing players to create and share custom levels. Portal 2 received widespread critical acclaim, praised for its innovative gameplay, well-balanced learning curve, pacing, dark humor, writing, and voice acting. Like its predecessor, it is often regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made by numerous publications and critics. After the success of Portal, Valve decided to develop Portal 2 as a standalone product, driven partly by internal pressure from developers within Valve eager to expand on the Portal universe. Development commenced almost immediately after the release of Portal. Unlike its predecessor, Portal 2 received a significant increase in resources from Valve. While the original Portal was developed by a team of 7 or 8 people, Portal 2's team grew to between 30 and 40 members. This expansion allowed for the formation of subgroups focused on designing new game mechanics and crafting the game's narrative. Valve's internal review processes inspired additional team members to join the project, contributing to its evolution and scale. During Portal 2's development, some developers also worked on Valve's Left 4 Dead games to assist in meeting project milestones, before returning to Portal 2 with added resources. Kim Swift, the designer of the original Portal, left Valve for Airtight Games midway through Portal 2's development, signaling a transition within the team dynamics. Valve's project manager Eric Johnson stated that the goal for Portal 2 was to re-surprise players, a challenge he described as daunting. By March 2011, just before the game's release, Valve's president Gabe Newell touted Portal 2 as the best game we've ever done. Following Portal 2's launch, Newell hinted that it might be Valve's last game with a strictly isolated single-player experience, suggesting future projects would incorporate more social features akin to Portal 2's cooperative mode. Initially, Valve considered excluding portals from Portal 2 and focused instead on a gameplay mechanic known as f-stop for 5 months. This concept, later adopted by developer Lunchhouse Software for their game exposure using Valve's code, involved an aperture camera allowing users to photograph and manipulate objects within the game environment. Valve's f-stop concept was set in the 1980s and would have diverged from the Chell and GLaDOS narrative, exploring a conflict within Aperture involving a new test subject and an uprising against an AI-controlled robot army led by Aperture's founder. Playtesters responded positively to f-stop but expressed disappointment over the absence of portals. Consequently, based on this feedback in October 2008, Newell directed the team to reconsider their creative direction. No More Room in Hell is a cooperative first-person survival horror video game, originally conceived by Matt Max Kazan and initially developed as a modification on Valve's source game engine. Set within a zombie apocalypse, players assume the roles of one of 8 remaining survivors, emphasizing cooperation and survival. The game offers 2 primary modes, objective and survival. Heavily influenced by George Romero's Living Dead series, the game's title directly references a line from Dawn of the Dead: "When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth." Additionally, characters within the game are inspired by various films such as American Psycho and The Big Lebowski. Initially launched on October 31, 2011, as a mod for Half-Life 2, No More Room in Hell garnered positive attention. Following years of development since 2004, it was officially re-released as a standalone title on October 31, 2013, through Steam Greenlight. This release solidified its status as an independent game and was well received by critics and players alike. No More Room in Hell received significant acclaim and recognition within the gaming community following its release. In 2011, PC Gamer magazine named it Mod of the Year, and it was featured prominently in 2 issues in 2012. The game also ranked in the top 100 of ModDB's 2011 Mod of the Year list and was honored as Multiplayer Mod of the Year for 2011. Maximum PC dedicated a 2-page article to No More Room in Hell, alongside features on other prominent zombie games like DayZ and The War Z, highlighting its impact and popularity. In 2012, the game won the Mod of the Year award from Gamefront in a reader poll on Facebook and was nominated once more by ModDB users, achieving 3rd place for Player's Choice Mod of the Year. Despite maintaining its popularity and placing consistently high in awards, in 2013, No More Room in Hell achieved 2nd place in the ModDB Mod of the Year award, continuing to solidify its position as a standout mod and later, standalone game in the survival horror genre. On October 28, 2016, the official No More Room in Hell YouTube channel released a teaser trailer, hinting at the sequel's development. Subsequently, developers began sharing insights into the game's progress through blog posts on the No More Room in Hell 2 developer blog. An important milestone came on May 25, 2017, when it was announced on the Unreal Engine website that No More Room in Hell received a significant financial boost of $275,000 in Unreal Dev grants. The anticipation for No More Room in Hell 2 grew with its official trailer debut at Math Chiefs Game Expo in 2021. Initially scheduled for release on October 31, 2022, to coincide with Halloween, the launch was postponed after the development team secured a partnership that allowed them to devote more resources to the game's development. Consequently, the release date was pushed to an unspecified future date. Finally, on June 7, 2024, during the Summer Game Fest 2024, it was officially announced with a trailer that No More Room in Hell 2 would be released via early access on Halloween. Torn Banner Studios took on the roles of developer and publisher for the game. Nuclear Dawn began its journey as an amateur mod for the Source engine, first announced in February 2006. However, by April 2009, it transitioned into a commercial project, still utilizing the Source engine. The game was aimed at Windows PCs and Mac OS X platforms. Nuclear Dawn was eventually released on September 26, 2011. Nuclear Dawn began its journey as an amateur mod for the Source engine, first announced in February 2006. However, by April 2009, it transitioned into a commercial project, still utilizing the Source engine. The game was aimed at Windows PCs and Mac OS X platforms. Nuclear Dawn was eventually released on September 26, 2011. Nuclear Dawn combines elements of first-person shooter gameplay with real-time strategy, where each team is led by a commander who oversees strategic decisions and infrastructure while the remaining players engage in combat. Players can select from 4 distinct classes: Stealth, Exo, Assault, and Support, each with unique abilities that evolve as the commander researches new technologies and constructs buildings. The goal for each team, comprising up to 16 players, is to destroy the opponent's base across 6 post-apocalyptic maps. During development, the inclusion of drivable vehicles was initially planned but later abandoned due to technical challenges. Upon release, Nuclear Dawn garnered mixed reviews on Metacritic. PC Gamer appreciated its depth and well-designed gameplay mechanics, highlighting map design and the technology tree, though it criticized the unclear perks and lack of a dedicated tutorial for commanders. GameSpot praised its balance and map quality but noted the absence of solo play options and variability in player experiences based on team coordination. Rock Paper Shotgun recommended it to fans of similar games like Savage and Natural Selection, despite acknowledging some ongoing balance issues. Postal 3, developed by Trashmasters and running with Scissors, and published by Akella, launched in December 2011 as the 3rd installment in the Postal series. It continues the story of the series' protagonist, the Postal Dude, who ends up in the town of Catharsis, Arizona, after running out of gas. Originally intended as a direct sequel to Postal 2, Postal 3 faced significant criticism from both critics and fans, leading Running with Scissors to reclassify it as a spin-off and declare it non-canonical. Despite its critical failure, Postal 3 was commercially successful, generating substantial revenue for Akella. However, the game's development and post-release support were marred by challenges. Running with Scissors, the original creators, had limited involvement due to financial struggles and disputes over access to the game's assets and development tools with Akella, exacerbated by the Russian financial crisis of 2008 to 2009. These issues prevented Running with Scissors from providing updates, patches, or allowing mod support. Following the game's release, Akella faced severe financial difficulties and ultimately ceased operations in 2012, marking the end of their involvement with Postal 3 and leaving it without ongoing support or updates. Despite its troubled history, the Postal series continued with Postal 4, No Regrets, announced in 2019 and released into early access in the same year, followed by an official release on April 20, 2022, which also received mixed reviews. Following the critical reception of Postal 3, the developers, particularly those at Running with Scissors, faced significant backlash and criticism for the game's poor quality and technical issues. Despite some mixed reviews, the overall consensus from major outlets like GameSpot and Game Informer was overwhelmingly negative, highlighting problems with game stability, design flaws, and subpar writing. GameSpot's review gave Postal 3 a dismal score of 3 out of 10, emphasizing the game's unstable performance and lackluster game design. The critique pointed out that the developers failed to deliver on both narrative and technical fronts, marking it as one of the lowest-rated games in their reviews. Game Informer's review was even more critical, scoring Postal 3 a mere 1 out of 10. The review derided the game for its poor writing, unstable gameplay mechanics, and overall lack of quality. It emphasized that Postal 3 fell short in virtually every aspect, making it a rare recipient of such a low score. QJ.net offered a more positive take on Postal 3, praising its dark humor and creative elements. However, the review acknowledged severe technical issues such as frequent crashes and graphical glitches, which significantly detracted from the experience. It also noted that the game could come across as mean-spirited and lacking depth, despite its attempts at humor. Original Gamer's review provided a middle ground, rating Postal 3 with a 7.5 out of 10. While appreciating aspects like the storyline and weapon variety, the review criticized its linear level design and gameplay mechanics. It also highlighted a perceived bias towards the good path in the game's morality system, which impacted the overall enjoyment for players. Despite the negative reception, the specifics of the developer's response to the critical feedback are not extensively documented. However, it's evident that the game's poor reception prompted Running with Scissors to re-evaluate Postal 3's status within the series, ultimately declaring it as non-canonical due to fan and critical backlash. The fallout from Postal 3's reception likely influenced the development approach for subsequent titles in the Postal series, including Postal 4, No Regrets, which aimed to rectify past shortcomings while continuing the franchise. These were some of the most notable games using the Source engine, chronological. From 2004 to the present day.